Maya Santos thought she had found love online, but Ethan Calder was more mysterious than she could imagine. Every message, every call, every photo seemed really at something felt off. Detective Rafe Mendoza and Agent Thomas Kerr uncover a trail that vanishes into thin air. Isla Rivera warns Maya the man she's chasing might not exist at all. What happens next will shock you as the line between reality and illusion disappears completely. Maya Santos had always been cautious about dating apps. She had watched her friends fall for strangers online, some ending in heartbreak, others in stories she preferred not to hear. But one rainy evening in Manila, curiosity got the better of her. She opened the app, scrolling past endless faces that seemed generic, profiles that felt more like advertisements than real people. And then she stopped. There he was, Ethan Calder. His profile was striking but not flashy, a simple photo of a man smiling gently at the camera. There was something familiar in his eyes, the kind of warmth that made her stomach twist in a way she hadn't felt in years. His bio was minimal, just a few sentences about loving travel, books, and photography. Nothing that screamed danger, nothing that made her suspicious. But somehow, it drew her in. She swiped right without a second thought, and when it matched immediately, her heart skipped a beat. The first message came late at night. It was thoughtful, playful, a question about her favorite books. Unlike the usual messages she received, generic compliments. Awkward emojis or attempts to impress Thithen's words felt personal. Every morning after that, Maya would wake up to a message from him, waiting patiently, as if he had been expecting her. Their conversations grew longer, deeper. They laughed over small things, shared childhood memories, and discussed their dreams. Maya couldn't explain why she felt so connected. Something about Ethan's words felt real. He had a way of asking questions that made her reveal pieces of herself she hadn't shared with anyone. And yet, there were subtle oddities. His video calls would sometimes freeze for no reason, or he would switch angles abruptly as if hiding something. The photos he sent were slightly grainy, the background blurred. At first, she dismissed it as poor internet connection or an old phone. But a quiet, nagging thought lingered. Why would someone so confident, so charming, be so careful about showing their face clearly? Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Maya's friends began noticing a change in her. She seemed happier, lighter, almost like she was floating through life. Isla, her best friend, warned her to be cautious. Online romance could be dangerous, especially with someone she had never met. Maya would laugh it off, telling herself she was different, that Ethan was different. Yet, the curiosity that had drawn her to him was now mingled with a subtle unease she couldn't name. Ethan claimed he traveled often for work in technology and finance. Hopping between the USA, Europe, and Asia, that explained why he could only video call sporadically. His schedule, though unpredictable, was peppered with small surprises, a gift left at her doorstep. A handwritten note in the mail, a message detailing some obscure book he knew she loved. Each gesture made him seem more real, more tangible. But the inconsistencies piled up like tiny shadows at the edges of her excitement. One night, Maya decided to look closer at his profile. She reversed his images online, scanning forums and social media platforms. Nothing matched. No other accounts, no LinkedIn profiles, no trace of a man named Ethan Calder living in the places he claimed. The absence felt strange at first, but she dismissed it. Perhaps he was private, careful about his digital footprint. People could choose to remain hidden, after all. Despite the creeping doubts, Maya found herself drawn further in. The excitement of waiting for his messages, the anticipation of his next video call, made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. Every new detail about him, every story he told, made her heart race. And then there were the little things that seemed almost too perfect, the way he remembered minor details about her day. The jokes only she could understand, the carefully timed compliments that made her smile when she least expected it by now. Maya was hooked, her mind constantly replaying their conversations. Imagining a life where Ethan was real, present, and just as devoted as she had begun to believe, yet buried deep beneath the excitement, a tiny seed of doubt grew. The grainy photos, the intermittent video calls. The lack of any traceable existence, it whispered a question she wasn't ready to ask. Could someone this perfect truly be real? Or was the life she was falling in love with nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion? And so, the story began quietly, in the glow of her phone screen. Maya had met someone who seemed real, someone who seemed extraordinary, someone who seemed to care. But little did she know, the journey that began with a simple swipe would spiral into a mystery that would blur the line between reality and deception in ways she could never imagine. After months of chatting, sharing dreams, and sending small tokens of affection, Ethan suggested the unthinkable meeting in person. Maya's heart raced at the thought. She imagined walking through the bustling streets of New York, finally seeing the man who had consumed her thoughts for so long. Her excitement was mixed with nervousness, a jittery anticipation she could barely contain. She spent weeks planning, saving, and preparing herself for the trip. Every detail mattered: her flights, her hotel, even what she would wear. She wanted everything to be perfect, as if the universe had finally aligned to reward her for her patience and trust. When she landed, the city felt alive, chaotic, and overwhelming. The streets were filled with flashing lights, towering buildings, people moving with a purpose that made her feel small but energized. She texted Ethan, sending updates about her journey, her location, and when she would be at their first meeting spot. But the response came later than expected. Then later than that, and finally, nothing at all. Maya waited. She walked to the cafes, the parks, the quiet corners of the city where they had agreed to meet. Every street felt like a potential hiding place, every corner a place where he might appear. Hours passed, then a full day. Calls went unanswered. Messages bounced back or remained unread. Panic began to seep into her chest. The man she had trusted, the man she had imagined walking beside her, seemed to have vanished into thin air. Desperation set in. She tried to verify every detail he had ever given her. The hotel he claimed to stay at for work trips had no record of him. The supposed office where he said he worked was unfamiliar to the area. Even the addresses he had shared to prove his life seemed to evaporate when investigated. Maya began to feel as if she had been chasing a shadow. The city, so vast and full of life, suddenly felt like a trap, its streets mocking her efforts. Back in Manila, Maya reached out to Lila, her best friend. Lila had always been wary of online relationships, and now her instincts screamed that something was deeply wrong. Together, they began investigating Ethan's digital presence, scanning social media platforms, reverse-searching images, and cross-checking the few details he had shared. What they discovered was more alarming than they expected. Every photo Ethan had sent appeared to have been recycled. The same images appeared under multiple names, often in different countries, all portraying a charming, smiling man. Profiles would vanish and reappear, leaving no consistent pattern. It was as if Ethan Calder existed everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The reality Maya had believed in, the life they were supposed to meet and share, was dissolving into a web of uncertainty. Despite the mounting unease, a part of Maya refused to let go. Each unanswered call, each dead-end search, was followed by the hope that maybe, just maybe, Ethan would appear. She clung to the idea that this was some miscommunication, a delay in travel, a technical glitch. The uncertainty was unbearable, but so was the thought of letting go of the connection that had defined the past months of her life. Then came the first, truly strange discovery. A small, almost imperceptible clue hidden in one of Ethan's emails, a geographic tag pointing to a suburb in California. Maya checked maps, searched property records, even tried to contact local offices. There was no house, no office, no trace of a man named Ethan Calder living or working there. It was as if he had planted a breadcrumb only to vanish before anyone could follow it. The more Maya searched, the deeper she felt trapped in a labyrinth she couldn't escape. Each revelation brought more questions than answers. Why would someone go to such lengths to appear real, yet remain undetectable? Was it a scam, a cruel game, or something far more sinister? The thought made her shiver, yet she couldn't stop. Something about Ethan, Something about the connection they had built held her captive, refusing to let her turn away. By the time night fell over New York, Maya was exhausted but resolute. She realized that this trip, this attempt to meet someone she had loved from afar, had opened a door into a mystery far bigger than she could have imagined. She was no longer chasing a man. She was chasing a ghost. And the city, with all its lights and endless streets, had become the stage for a story that seemed to defy logic, leaving her heart in a state of anxious anticipation for what would come next. Back in Manila, Maya felt a mix of frustration, fear, and disbelief. She had flown thousands of miles, poured her savings into a trip she had imagined would change her life. And yet Ethan Calder had disappeared as if he had never existed. The city that once felt like home now seemed smaller, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. She turned to her best friend, Lila Rivera, the one person who had always been practical, always questioned the too-good-to, and now became her partner in unraveling the truth. Lila suggested a digital investigation. They started methodically, tracing Ethan's every online footprint. Reverse image searches revealed something chilling. The photos he had sent to Maya were not unique. The same smiling man appeared in forums and social media accounts in other countries, using different names, often claiming to be a traveler, a businessman, or a photographer. It was a pattern that couldn't be ignored. Maya realized she was not alone in being drawn into Ethan's web. Every lead seemed promising at first, but then dissolved into nothing. Emails bounced. Social media accounts were deleted as soon as they were discovered. When Maya tried to dig into his supposed work history, nothing matched. The offices he claimed to visit either did not exist or had no record of him. Even the locations of his frequent trips were vague and inconsistent. The more she searched, the more she felt trapped in a digital labyrinth built for deception. One night, while sifting through the remnants of old emails, Maya noticed something she had overlooked before. A small line of code hidden in the metadata of a photo Ethan had sent months ago. It contained a geographic tag pointing to a quiet suburb in California. It was almost laughably ordinary, a place that could easily hide in plain sight. But when she checked, no building, no business, no residence matched the description. It was as if the marker had been placed there deliberately, only to mislead anyone who tried to follow it. The realization hit Maya like a cold wave. Ethan was not just a person hiding behind a screen. He was a carefully constructed illusion. Every photo, every story, every moment of intimacy was part of a pattern designed to ensnare her. Fear mixed with anger as she considered the possibility that her entire relationship had been fabricated. And yet, despite the fear gnawing at her, she couldn't stop. Something about Ethan, about the life he had promised, kept her tethered to the illusion. As the days passed, Maya and Lila began uncovering more disturbing evidence. Some of the accounts Ethan had used were linked to reports of financial scams, where other women had been manipulated to share personal information or even money. Others hinted at a darker, more obsessive pattern: men who had vanished online, leaving their targets in confusion and despair. Maya realized she was staring at a trail that spanned continents. Yet no one had ever caught the man behind it. Desperation grew into determination. Maya contacted a cybercrime expert based in the United States, Agent Thomas Kerr, explaining everything she had discovered. Agent Kerr had seen similar cases before, but even he admitted that Ethan Calder was unusual. The man or entity behind the online persona had left no permanent trace, no official records, no financial footprint, no verifiable identity. It was as if he had been born online, existed only to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The more Maya learned, the more the mystery consumed her. Each revelation was like a new layer of fog, thickening over the truth and making it harder to see. She questioned her own judgment, wondering how she could have been so blind, yet she also felt a strange exhilaration. The thrill of the hunt, the chase through digital shadows, was addicting. She realized she had crossed a point of no return. She could never forget him, could never unsee the pieces of the puzzle he had left scattered across the world. One evening, as Manila's neon lights flickered through her window, Maya sat staring at her laptop. Scrolling through a forum where one anonymous user claimed to have met Ethan in person, the story was brief and unsettling. The man had appeared charming and genuine. It had vanished without warning, leaving only a rented hotel room with burned receipts and erased records. It was proof of a pattern, a confirmation of the nightmare she had begun to suspect. Maya's heartbeat quickened. She realized she was no longer searching for a man. She was unraveling a ghost story written in the digital age. The person she had fallen for might never exist, yet the impact on her life was undeniable. The chase was no longer about love, it was about uncovering a truth that had been carefully hidden from the world. And deep down, she knew that every clue she uncovered would only lead her further into a mystery she might never escape. Detective Rafe Mendoza leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning Maya's notes. She had brought him the full story. Every detail of her months-long online connection with Ethan Calder, every failed attempt to meet him, and every digital clue she had uncovered. At first, Rafe was skeptical, another case of online romance gone wrong. But the more he examined the evidence, the more he realized this was far from ordinary. The pieces didn't fit together. Ethan Calder's existence or lack of it was a puzzle that refused to yield. Rafe started digging into the online trail. He traced IP addresses, cross-checked emails, and reviewed metadata on every photo Ethan had sent. Each path led to a dead end. Locations that made no sense. Accounts that vanished almost immediately after discovery. Someone had gone to extreme lengths to erase every trace of themselves. Whoever Ethan Calder was, he had mastered the art of digital invisibility. Maya watched as Rafe worked, a mixture of hope and dread twisting inside her. If anyone could find him, it was him. Yet the more the investigation progressed, the more terrifying it became. Ethan's digital footprint wasn't just faint, it was almost non-existent. It was as if he had created a life entirely online, carefully curated, but leaving no evidence that could tie him to reality. Then came a breakthrough. A small, almost imperceptible detail in one of Ethan's emails, a unique reference to a financial transaction led Rafe to collaborate with Agent Thomas Kerr in the United States. Kerr had seen similar cases, online predators who created alternate identities, scamming multiple people across borders, disappearing before authorities could catch up. But even he admitted Ethan's sophistication was unusual. The man had avoided every common trace, leaving almost no record, no paper trail. Nothing physical to track him down. As Rafe and Agent Kerr dug deeper, the picture that emerged was chilling. Ethan Calder had targeted women who were planning trips abroad, convincing them to share personal and financial information, building trust over weeks or months before vanishing completely. Some victims had been defrauded financially, others emotionally manipulated, but all shared the same terrifying pattern. A man who existed only in pixels and promises. The more Maya learned, the more the horror set in. She realized she had been part of a pattern, a carefully orchestrated web of deception that spanned countries. The person she had trusted, the man she had fallen for, had never been who he claimed. Every gift, every photo, every thoughtful message had been a calculated move to draw her in, to make her believe in a reality that never existed. Then another twist emerged, one that made her stomach drop. In a hidden corner of an obscure online forum, someone claimed to have met Ethan in person briefly, for less than an hour. The description was strikingly similar to Maya's experience. Charming, engaging, perfect in every detail, then gone, leaving no trace. The hotel room he had used was found abandoned, with receipts burned and records deleted. It was proof of a pattern, confirmation that the nightmare Maya feared was real. Maya's heart pounded as the reality sank in. Ethan Calder was not just a scammer. He was a ghost, a manor, a figure who could slip between the cracks of reality and the digital world, leaving confusion, heartbreak, and fear in his wake. Every day she had spent longing for him. Every thought, every hope, had been for someone who might never have existed. Yet amidst the fear and despair, Maya felt something else. Determination. She could not let this end without answers. The pursuit of truth, the unraveling of Ethan's carefully constructed illusion, had become more than a quest for closure. It was now a mission to expose a pattern that could trap others, to shine a light on a man who had perfected the art of disappearing in plain sight as night fell over Manila. Maya stared at her laptop, the screen glowing like a small beacon in the darkness. She thought of the countless messages, the promises, the laughter she had shared with Ethan, and she realized that the man she had loved or believed she had loved might never be caught. He had left no trace, yet the shadow of his presence lingered, a haunting reminder of how easily someone could manipulate reality from behind a screen. The investigation had revealed one terrifying truth. Ethan Calder was more than a man. He was a phantom, a digital specter who could slip between countries, identities, and lives without leaving a footprint. And for Maya, for anyone who had crossed paths with him, the question remained, would he strike again? And if so, would anyone ever be able to stop him? Months had passed since Maya's attempt to meet Ethan Calder in New York, yet the mystery of his existence haunted every corner of her life. The fear that had once paralyzed her had shifted into determination. She could no longer allow herself to be a victim of a digital ghost. She pored over every message, every image, every clue Ethan had left behind. Each detail was scrutinized, analyzed, cross-checked with obsessive precision. Detective Rafe Mendoza continued to coordinate with Agent Thomas Kerr, working across borders to uncover anything that could pin down the man who seemed to exist nowhere. But the more they investigated, the more impossible he became. Accounts were deleted, metadata altered, and IP addresses traced to public networks or virtual private servers that hid the true location. Ethan had crafted a life entirely online, one that could vanish at the flick of a switch. It was a level of deception that neither Maya nor the experts had ever seen before. Despite the frustration, refused to stop. She scoured forums, hidden corners of the internet, and private message boards where others had reported similar experiences. Each story mirrored her own. Women charmed, drawn in, and then left bewildered as the man disappeared. There were whispers of a pattern, and was not just one man but a ghost who could appear anywhere in the world. Always charming, always gone before discovery. The idea made her shiver, but it also fueled her obsession. She needed answers, no matter how elusive. Then, one afternoon, a package arrived at her doorstep. There was no return address, no name, just a plain brown box. Inside was a USB drive and a single note, written in elegant, careful handwriting. You are looking in the wrong place. I am everywhere, but nowhere at all. Maya's hands trembled as she inserted the USB into her laptop. The screen filled with images, hundreds of photos of Ethan. He was alone in some, smiling at the camera, casual and charming. In others, he was with women who had eerily resembled the stories she had read online. Each image told a story of a man who had been present, intimate, and really yet invisible in the world around him. Maya's heart pounded. Every image was a confirmation of the truth she had been running from. Ethan Calder had existed, but only in fragments, carefully curated for those he intended to trap. The realization was terrifying. She had loved a man who was real in the moment, but untethered from reality itself. Every gesture, every word, had been part of a pattern that spanned continents, yet left no permanent trace. Her mind raced. How could one person manipulate reality so perfectly? How could someone exist everywhere and nowhere, slipping through systems, identities, and borders? The thought was intoxicating, horrifying, and impossible to escape. Maya realized the story she had lived was no longer just about love or deception. It was about the fragility of trust in a world where digital lives could be constructed, erased, and reconstructed at will. Despite the fear, a strange clarity emerged. Maya understood that Ethan's power came from the illusion of intimacy. He had mastered the art of presence and absence, making each target feel uniquely chosen, uniquely understood, and uniquely trapped in a world he controlled. The digital ghost had vanished, but the imprint remained. Haunting her every thought, as night fell over Manila, Maya closed her laptop and stared at the city lights below. The streets were alive, full of people, full of stories, but somewhere out there, in the endless web of networks, Ethan Calder could be watching, waiting, moving between identities, leaving no trace. The terror of the unknown settled deep in her chest. She realized she might never have closure. She might never see him again. And yet the story would stay with her forever. A cautionary tale about the dangers of online trust, the power of illusion, and the unsettling reality that someone could touch your life without ever truly existing. The USB drive sat on her desk like a silent warning. Maya knew the world would never catch Ethan Calder completely. He had become a ghost of the digital age, a specter that existed in every screen, every profile, every whispered story. And for Maya, and anyone who crossed his path, the chilling truth remained. Some people are everywhere and nowhere at once. And sometimes, the one you love the most is a phantom you can never hold.